What if I told you that during the Cold War, the U.S. Air Force seriously considered detonating a nuclear bomb on the surface of the moon? Not as a weapon against an enemy, not as a scientific experiment, but as a massive public spectacle, a nuclear explosion so bright it could be seen from Earth with the naked eye. This is the true terrifying story of Project A119, the secret American plan to nuke the moon. The year was 1958. The Soviet Union had just launched Sputnik, and America was in a panic. The space race had begun, and the U.S. was desperate to show the world it still had the upper hand. So, a group of military planners and scientists came up with an idea so extreme it sounds like science fiction. Detonate a nuclear warhead on the moon. The explosion would create a massive flash of light visible from Earth. It would prove American power in the most dramatic way imaginable. The project was called A119. Scientists studied the best location for the blast, the size of the bomb, and how the explosion would look from Earth. They calculated the dust cloud it would create. They even considered the propaganda value of the mushroom cloud rising from the lunar surface. One of the young scientists who worked on the calculations was Carl Sagan, the same Carl Sagan who later became one of the most famous voices for peace and scientific curiosity. Even he was drawn into the project before realizing how dangerous and reckless it truly was. There were serious risks. No one fully understood how a nuclear explosion in the vacuum of space would behave. There were concerns about radioactive contamination of the lunar surface. There were fears that the blast could interfere with future space missions. And there was the very real possibility that the public and the rest of the world would see it not as a show of strength, but as an act of madness. Some scientists involved in the project later admitted they were deeply disturbed by the idea of turning the moon into a nuclear target. In the end, Project A119 was canceled. The official reason was concern over the scientific and political consequences. But the deeper truth is that even in the height of Cold War paranoia, some people realized that nuking the moon was a line that should never be crossed. The documents remained classified for decades. When they were finally revealed, the world was stunned that such a plan had ever been seriously considered. Project A119 is a reminder of how far nations are willing to go when fear and competition take over. The same country that would later land men on the moon had once planned to scar it with a nuclear explosion. It shows how thin the line is between scientific ambition and destructive madness. And it raises a chilling question. If they were willing to consider nuking the moon, what other secret plans remain buried in classified files? The moon has always been a symbol of mystery, beauty, and the unknown. For a brief moment in history, it was almost turned into a nuclear testing ground. The fact that the plan was stopped should be a relief. But the fact that it was ever proposed should still keep us up at night. Because if the people in power once thought it was a good idea to nuke the moon, what else are they capable of deciding when no one is watching? The end. Drop your thoughts below. Do you think Project A119 should have stayed buried, or was the public right to learn the truth? Subscribe to Random Vibe Spark for more insane hidden history, wild government secrets, and reality-bending stories that will blow your mind.